And here we are at XM Satellite Radio. We're very excited.
Yes, absolutely, right off the bat.
This is the way to start the XM portion of the show, Anthony.
Yeah.
You want to introduce our guest as I try to get my headphones right?
And I am saying legendary.
Yes.
You are a legend. Look at him, he's all embarrassed. George A. Romero.
Thank you.
Sir.
Hello.
Huge fans
Legend
right here.
means old, I think. You know, that's the problem.
No. You know something, though? You've been a legend for a while. So we're all huge fans. I mean, the
great.
films have just fascinated, I know me, for years. They're amongst some of the most frightening movies. And it's not even that slasher frightening or the trendy whatever, the super du jour kind of scary is. Your movies are it's that consistent, just frightening zombie movie that people are actually, they get scared. They can't sleep afterwards.
Yeah.
And just the whole series has just been fantastic. And now you have something new coming out, Diary of the Dead.
Yeah, Diary of the Dead. Yep, it's coming out February 15th.
And what's the
Small,
gist?
limited release. It's a much smaller picture. It's about. My zombie films have always been about sort of what's happening out in the world. It's not so much the story. It's the zombies. They could be a hurricane or any other disaster, and the stories are more about how people respond or fail to respond to the dilemma.
Yeah.
And this is it's really about this emerging, alternate media, how the whole world everybody's being turned into a reporter. It strikes me as a little scary. So that's what this is about. And it goes back to the very first night. It goes back to the night of the Living Dead. And it's sort of a parallel story. A bunch of film students out shooting a school project when the zombies begin to walk. So they document. It's all subjective camera. And they document what happens to them over the first 3 days. And that's it in a nutshell.
Like Cloverfield just came out. They had that same thing.
Same kind of conceit, yeah.
Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Which probably didn't make you happy that... wait a minute, I've been working on this.
Yeah, well, I was working before I knew anything
Doing
about
this with zombies, you bastards.
Yes,
but that's a big budget, what, New York gets destroyed or something.
Yeah.
This is very different. It's a very personal film. It was really, for me, going back to the roots. And, we shot on a very low budget. And I had, for the first time since Night of the Living Dead, had complete control of it. So I'm the guy to blame. And, it's really sort of one from the heart.
What's your favorite work that you've done? I mean, you obviously have a very complete body of work. What's your favorite thing that you shot? Is it Night of the Living Dead? Is it Dawn of the Dead? Or?
No, it's not. It's neither. My favorite two films are a film I made called Martin and a film I made called Night Riders. I think 9 people saw them in the aggregate. Luckily, thank God for video. Stuff goes out and
Yeah.
So I have 65-year-old fans and 16-year-old fans thanks to video. So
Yeah, absolutely. What the fascination with zombies? I mean, it's there aren't many, unless they're really, garbage. But there aren't many zombie movies that aren't a hit with people, and your movies especially.
yeah, it's hard to
people are
name the really
fascinated.
big ones. I mean, Shaun of the Dead was great, but it's kind of a spoof.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
original remake of my film, the remake of Dawn of the Dead, made a lot of dough.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other, I don't think of the 28 Days or 28 Weeks films as zombie films because
No.
they're not dead. They're infected.
Infected, and they run.
And they run.
They run, which it does not pay attention to the George A. Romero rule of zombies,
Yeah, you don't
which is the
run.
lumbering, slow zombie
That's
that
right.
somehow sneaks up on you.
Well, maybe it's the influence of when I was growing up, the old Christopher Lee mummy things.
Uh-huh.
You could blow him full of holes and he just keeps coming.
Yeah.
He moves slow, but he just keeps coming. And that's the thing that I find that scarier than something running after me,
Because
Yeah.
there's that anticipation, right? Instead of something running right at you and attacking you.
And it's
exactly.
the surprise of, opening that door. Or if you're fumbling to try to find some keys in the car and you get up and turn and, hello, he's right there.
He's right
That's
there,
a little
yeah.
scarier than somebody just running after
No,
you.
I know, it's great. Well, it's like the original version of The Thing, the Christian Nyby version. It's all about doors. When you open
Right.
a door, Then a couple of times, there he is.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, it is anticipation. It's build up rather than the actual
That
shot.
slow hopelessness that's just going to get you eventually.
Yeah.
Well, that
You're
was
just hanging there.
It's going to outlast you.
Yeah.
that was the scariest part of Halloween for me. Was Michael Myers? He didn't run. He's just
Yeah.
walked,
He just
and
walked.
yet he always got there before you did. It was creepy. So this guy knows a lot of shortcuts, but he didn't run, and that was the beauty of him.
The victim's just not smart. I mean, come on, you should be able to outrun a zombie. Let's
Yeah.
be honest here.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's in my films. That's the mistake that everybody makes. They keep trying to go on with life as if it's normal,
Yeah.
Just get out of town.
It's not. It's something.
No.
Something dead is alive out there.
The original Night of the Living Dead, especially for the time, was very shocking. The eating of the entrails and stuff like that. Did you come across any resistance with the ratings? But I don't. There probably
man.
wasn't even a ratings board.
No,
when that came out.
listen. That film is old enough that there was no MPAA.
Yeah.
In fact, it was one of the films that people used to point at and say that we really need somebody to control these guys. So
Thanks for that contribution.
So you ruined it.
Because of you, I
Yeah,
couldn't see Kentucky Fried Movie.
that's it. Well, it was that, and there were a couple of concert films. No, I guess the prior concerts were after the MPAA, but there were a few films that were out. But then the second Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, we were lucky enough to get distributors that put them out without ratings. They bucked the MPAA and put them out without a rating. And it was a time when you could do that because, like, the prior concerts were going out unrated, and it still had a little bit of respect. It wasn't, It's funny, man. You can get away with violence as much as you want, but you start, you go sex and forget about it.
Yeah.
You get slammed.
Then they want the X rating on it.
Yeah. Well, whereas, in the UK, get away with as much sex as you want, but violence gets.
Then they don't like the violence over there.
Yeah.
Have you thought about a zombie porn?
I haven't. No. But maybe if I could think of a good theme for that, some sort of...
There have been some scenes in some of the movies with, you see some half-naked zombie girl, and for some reason it's surprisingly hot for I don't know why.
No, I know.
I don't know why a zombie breast is...
I'll tell you why.
No, it takes the charm away when you see the toe tag. So
No, it actually adds charm because it's everything you want a girl to be. It's like she's naked and she doesn't say a word.
Just moans a lot.
Too much, man.
Hey, is there any movie that scares the hell out of you? Like, or was it
not
one that
for
you
a
saw?
long time. As a kid, yeah. The Thing, I was talking about that scared me pretty much when I was a kid.
How about the original Exorcist?
The original Exorcist, I was raised Catholic, so it had maybe a little bit more of an effect on me. I've heard that people that had a Catholic upbringing, were more shook up by that movie than others. But, but I was old enough then and already had made my first couple of films.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Knew the magic behind it.
Yeah, that it's just you're just looking to see how did they do that.
Yeah.
Instead of
What was it like coming up with the some of the effects, especially on the first one? Because that was pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the investors, there were 26 investors. Everybody. The biggest guy was in for 5 Gs.
Oh wow!
So,
Wow.
One of them was a meat packer, so all those intestines and livers and everything
was
actually
able to
came from a
contribute.
meat packing plant. They were real, fresh. He kept them refrigerated. So.
Wow.
It's an amazing stat here. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Dawn of the Dead, which would go on to bring in over $55 million, was made for $500,000.
Yeah.
So it's like when you hear the investor was in for $5,000.
That's a good investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. Yeah, everybody, picked up a few shekels on that one. But
And
that was the biggest one. That would be went out and because it was very it opened in Europe first. It was actually partially financed by an Italian director, Dario Argento. I don't know if any of you guys know his stuff, Suspiria.
Oh, Suspiria was that was creepy. Remember the commercial for that? Suspiria with the girl brushing her hair.
Yeah.
And she'd turn around and have a skeleton face.
Yeah.
Scared the crap out of me as a kid.
How do you remember that?
I sat in front of the TV a lot when I was a
You're supposed
kid.
to remember that.
Very good looking.
What
girl.
Anthony remembers just
That was
amazes
scary.
us. Hey, we got Danny in the studio. Danny has been freaked out ever since he knew you were coming in.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm a big,
That's right. You always wear the
I'm a
shirt.
huge, yeah, I'm a
course.
huge Romero fan.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Oh, giant.
He's the biggest. Absolutely.
Well, thank
And
you.
You got a few questions?
Yeah, I did prepare. and I do have some
prepared.
If you understood how amazing this is, what a sign of respect this is for anybody on this staff to prepare for anything.
Oh man,
to prepare, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I did write some typical fanboy questions.
oh boy.
Oh, all right. Well, let's go with it.
That I'm
You're
sure
just trying to get
I'm
on
sure
message
you've answered
boards.
a million times, but I will try anyway. You did mention the Italian release of Dawn of the Dead, and I do know that I believe the pronunciation of his name is Lucio Fulci, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
He came out with Zombie 2, which was kind of like...
But the pronunciation of pronunciation is pronunciation, you're told.
That's the Italian pronunciation of pronunciation.
Now rephrase that and ask Mr. Romero.
Oh, Danny wanted to sound smart there.
No.
Come on.
If you just understood the beauty of that.
All right.
But I was curious if you really felt that Zombie 2 was a rip-off of your work.
Well, I think it was not only, well, let's say inspired by it, but they ripped off the title because Dawn of the Dead, the title in Italy was
It
Zombie.
was Zombie, right?
So this guy comes out and says, "I'm going to make Zombie 2 with nobody's permission, or anything else."
And
I like some of Fulci's films. I mean, he probably has made more of the sort of zombie knockoffs than anybody else in the world, and some of them were really pretty funny and okay. I mean, old and they wouldn't stand up today, I don't think. But they're not political at all. They're just
No, they were just kind of good, creepy movies.
Yeah.
Speaking of messages in your films, I know, a lot of people say that Dawn of the Dead dealt with consumerism and Night of the Living Dead dealt a lot with the racial tension at the time. But Day of the Dead, the third installment, a lot of people say that focused really around the AIDS virus and the fear of AIDS at the time. And now, I don't know if that's true.
No, it's not. Wasn't in what was in my mind. To me, it was all about mistrust. I mean, it seems like that was right around the time when we were starting to lose faith in everything. The military, the government, institutions, church, and individuals. I mean, losing faith in each other. So to me, that's what I was working with that film. It's just this breakdown of society because nobody trusts anybody. Even in that little community, living in a cave.
That's what's so sorry, Danny. That's what's so intriguing about the movies too, is that slow kind of breakdown of society, and I don't know why that's so fascinating to people, but it really is in movies when there's this just complete breakdown of society, and only a few actually can make it through that.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, there used to be a genre, before I started, like The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. There's nobody left in New York except Harry Belafonte. And I guess I haven't seen the Will Smith thing, but maybe it's a little bit
I Am
like
Legend.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I basically ripped off the idea for Night of the Living Dead from the book I Am Legend.
Really?
Yeah, before the other versions of that film were made.
Yeah, that was kind of an
he
Omega
starts-
Man remake.
Matheson in the book and I guess in this film starts with only one guy left in the world, and everyone has become a vampire. And so I felt, well, it's the '60s, and I said, well, this is like about revolution, but start the story at the beginning rather than when there's only one guy left.
Right.
And so that's what I wanted to do. So I knocked off the idea. I told Richard. He said, all right, if you make a lot of money, send me a check. But that was a genre. That was a specific genre. And then I think maybe what we started in the 60s and 70s, those of us that were working then, there's a documentary called American Nightmare about me, Wes Craven, Landis, some of the guys that were making like really hard-ass horror right around that time. And I think we sort of wanted to show the roots of it. Maybe it was, our own sort of, 60s guys sitting around pissed off because our revolution hadn't worked.
Right.
Peace and love really didn't change it. All of a sudden there's this war in some funny place over there, what? And rioting in the streets again and all that. But the racial thing in that, I mean, we used African American actor in the lead in Night of the Living Dead. He was just the best actor from among our friends. We finished the film, and we were literally driving an answer print to New York in the car, and that night, in the car, on the radio, we heard that Martin Luther King had been shot, and then which just completely changed the face of that movie. And it was something that we had done before that had happened, and, I don't know. I guess if there's any credit can be given to us is that we didn't change the script.
Yeah.
When Dwayne agreed to play the part. But that was an accidental thing. But then all of a sudden, I felt this responsibility. I said, "Oh man, I got a new job here. I have to do these with a little bit of social satire."
Kind of forced into the situation.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, Danny could just stand there because I actually wanted to bring up Vincent Price and The Last Man on Earth.
That's I Am Legend. That's
yeah,
the same.
that's the same
based
story.
on the same story.
And that was another one that just scared the shit out of me when let me in.
Yeah.
And he's just, there's nothing. It's that doom when even in a movie you realize, my God, there is no way they're getting out of this. This isn't going to be a happy ending. This, they're not going to wrap this up by finding some way to save the world. It's over, Johnny,
Yeah.
So
that was also something that we wanted to do. Seems to me the reason to do horror is to upset the apple cart somehow. And in the old days, they used to just very deliberately reestablish order.
Right, yeah.
Kill a giant spider and it's over.
Right.
And forget the bomb that caused it,
Yeah. Them was another one with the ants.
Yeah.
It's just that doom of, oh my God, this movie's going to end and they're just gone. Everybody's dead. It's fascinating stuff. I love it. Love that.
Danny, another question?
Sure. Well, I'm curious if you feel any kind of responsibility for a lot of the gaming industry today. A lot of video games have to deal with, a lot of the more popular video games have to deal with zombies like Resident Evil and there's one called Stubbs the Zombie, and also now I'm losing my
Silent Hill.
The Silent
Hill series a little bit.
And I think a lot of it really establishes a base on a lot of your films. And I was wondering if you felt the same way.
Well, I think that maybe my series of films, particularly Dawn of the Dead, caused a lot of that. But I think the thing that is most responsible for the zombie becoming sort of a popular, it's entered the lexicon. It's idiomatic. The rules are becoming idiomatic. Pretty soon there'll be a zombie on Sesame Street hanging out with the cow. And I think it's video games more than movies that have really popularized the new American zombie.
Yeah.
Were you upset with...
it has made transformation, some of the zombies.
This is one in particular, Dead Rising. I mean, it's basically Dawn of the Dead, the video game. You're a guy in a mall.
Yeah.
And there's zombies everywhere. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's just
they
a blatant
seem to have
rip-off.
gotten that idea from somebody.
Yeah, I think so.
That mall atmosphere, though, is classic. It's just so great because that is the definition of who we are and what we do, and then to have that as your last castle, your last bastion of hope is really great in those movies, and just surrounded by thousands of these creatures.
Yeah. And then it's other humans that win it, that win the day. But when the bikers show up, but I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please. Yeah. I'm such a dope. I honest to God, never see social messages until they're explaining them. I'm like, oh, yeah. Honest to God, I would go, wow, that's kind of cool. A mall.
Yeah,
I go there a lot.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking the same thing. I'm like, I must be an idiot because I look at it and like, oh, these zombies are eating people. That's all I think. And they needed to do it somewhere. Why not a mall?
That's true.
I thought it was all product placement you were looking for.
He's trying to do a little more with his film.
The zombie doing Starbucks.
The zombie is gargling with Laforest.
I mean, you said earlier that the racial thing was accidental, right? I mean, so you didn't do that with that. You weren't shooting that to make a statement.
The first film, no. I mean,
you got lucky when Martin Luther King caught a bullet.
Yeah, as we were starting to shoot it, though, we became aware of it. And Dwayne, the actor, was much more sensitive to it than I was. I mean, he actually pulled me aside and he said, "You want me to slug this white woman? You know what's going to happen when I walk out of the theater?"
Oh, jeez.
He was sensitive to all those issues when we were shooting it.
Did you? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, George.
So, but then when I finally decided to do the second film, it was because I met the people, I knew the people socially that developed that shopping mall. And I went out to visit the place, and just before it was open, the trucks were coming in bringing all this stuff, man, And I said, wow. And
perfect timing, too.
Perfect timing. And he said, there's the civil defense supplies upstairs, bomb shelters, everything. He said, you could survive in this place. And I'm light bulb. So and this was 10 years after the first film. And so that gave me the idea for it, and the idea of this, temple to consumerism and becoming a place to survive. I thought it was sort of a fitting kind of a sequel. There were just 5 of them in a farmhouse in the first film, and
yeah, the first movie scared me. I never sat through it. I couldn't sit through it. It was too frightening. How do they kill the zombies in the movie? Do they kill the zombies?
In the first film?
Yeah, in any of
No,
them.
they get killed.
Oh,
But they get killed by humans.
Yeah.
They
God,
managed
you're a
to
grown man.
Beat him or
What-
burn him.
I'm going to watch the movie.
beat 'em or burn 'em.
Beat
They
'em
go
or
up
burn
pretty
'em.
easy.
Right.
And
the way.
they're all messed up.
He's
in the
actually
head.
asking George how a film from 1968 ends. Yeah.
Yeah, but, I'm going to tell you something. But look, I meant it as a compliment. I
know.
couldn't sit through that movie. I was too frightened.
That's another compliment. I can't sit through your movies.
I think, Vinny, that's a
I
wonderful
couldn't get through
compliment.
it. How does it
You're a
end?
social
Well, at
zombie.
least he's not reviewing. I've had reviewers say that. I couldn't sit through it, but let me tell you what I thought about it.
Danny, anything else?
Well, sure. Well, since we're on the topic of Night anyway, I was wondering what you thought of Tom Savini's Color remake. I mean, the ending was a little twisted. You weren't expecting that, but I was wondering if you felt that it lived up to your standards.
What was the difference in the ending, Danny? I don't remember.
In the remake, Cooper is the one that gets killed at the end just because he was a giant asshole.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, he does. Tony Todd gets killed as well. It's just that Barbara survives. That was
Right.
I was apologizing to women when I wrote that script.
Barbara.
Because in the first film, she just loses her shoes, falls down. Typical, like 50s. Always made
It was
in
great,
Carol,
yeah.
I figured, yeah.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
So that was really it was an apology to women, but I liked it. I thought Tom did a great job with it. We were basically trying to reestablish a copyright. We lost the copyright on the first film.
Tom's pretty
stupidly.
at the forefront of special effects and that type of makeup.
Yeah, he was. He was really the go-to guy for a long time.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
he now is more interested in acting.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to ask you too, because he was in a movie that I think is great, and obviously your opinion matters in certain movies. Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, Dusk Till Dawn.
That one, he was in that, and
Sex Machine.
Yeah, Sex Machine. I thought that was a pretty cool movie.
Yeah,
Pretty
I liked
unique.
it a lot. He's in
Yeah.
Grindhouse too.
Yeah, Grindhouse.
Did you like
Yeah.
Grindhouse?
I like Grindhouse. Yeah,
Planetary?
Huh?
Not Planetary. You enjoyed what they did with the.
I did. I liked the other one better. I mean, I love. I mean, I know those guys, and I just had a good time watching it.
Right.
I don't know that audiences today get that. That there could be a reel missing and it's all scratched up and burns on it. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore, right?
Better not. Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing fell flat, but I really enjoyed it. I would say that now that we're not promoting the film anymore, I enjoyed the experience of Grindhouse.
Yeah, me too, all the way.
Do you, as a director and as an artist, do you like, because this one film is basically, or a couple of films is like people associate it with that? Like, does it bother you that other stuff you did isn't as well associated, or are you happy just to have something that massive that you're kind of pegged with it?
Of course, it always bothers you when people don't get what you're doing. I made a film called Bruiser. Nobody got it. I mean, it's just somehow just went, it's in a different layer of the atmosphere or something.
What was Bruiser about?
It's called Bruiser.
What was it about?
It's about loss of identity. It's about a guy that just gets so, screwed by people, everybody around him, his wife, his boss, his friends, and he just believes that he believes he loses his face. It's, it's loss of identity, and he turns violent because of it. Wow. The film was a bit of a reaction to Columbine, and I liked the film a lot, but nobody got it. I think they thought it was maybe too silly. This guy running around without a face. I thought it would be scary, but people didn't seem to think.
Is there anything worse than that's a risk you
Like
take.
how you go like, well,
It's like, oh well,
what are you going to do?
I still like
I
it.
couldn't sit through it.
Vinny.
Let me tell you how it ends.
That's got to be very frustrating too. Like when you do a comedy and no one laughs, that's got to be like when you do a horror film.
Vinny?
You go,
I was thinking Jimmy, but I was like, I'm not gonna do
No,
that.
I'm going to get you.
you when you do a horror film, people go, it didn't scare me. Like that's got to be like, fuck.
Yeah, right. That's your purpose.
It is. I mean, it's although I don't know, I haven't been. My stuff is more comic booky. It's got this creepy thing of all these dead neighbors walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And neighbors are scary enough. And when they're dead, it's a little less.
That was the whole gist of the one with Ving Rhames, and the beginning of that one where it's just the neighbors and
that's the best part of
the
that
girl.
film.
Yeah, I love that part where she wakes up. You know, her boyfriend or husband just gets killed by that kid next door, and she walks out not knowing what's going on, and it's already. You know, she's been sleeping. That's what got me is she was sleeping at some point when utter pandemonium is going on right outside her door.
Yeah.
And she opens her door to this, and again, it's just over. There's nothing she could do about it but try to run. But that's a great part of that movie.
I thought that was the best part of the film.
The
It's
overhead
a great
shots
idea.
of the car and the carnage going on around it was fantastic.
Yeah. And of course, Creepshow.
Speaking of comic booky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the most fun to shoot. The tagline was the most fun you'll ever have being scared, but it was the most fun to shoot.
I watch that still every few months just to get a great laugh. I mean, some of the scenes in that are hysterical. One of my favorite is Ted Danson buried up to his neck in the sand with the crab.
Yeah.
And Leslie Nielsen just goes, "Found a friend, Harry." As a matter of factly. Great. So many funny scenes in that. "Where's my cake, Bedelia, you bitch?"
Boy, I can't believe you know all these lines.
Oh, I've watched it so many times.
Bugs, Mr. Pratt.
Oh, yeah, Bugs got your tongue. I mean, just funny lines that you just keep laughing. It doesn't matter. I've seen it 1,000 times, and I'll still laugh.
Yeah.
And of course, probably the top one out of that is the one with Adrienne Barbeau.
Right.
And I'm sorry.
To call you Billy.
Yeah. Just tell it to call you Billy. And that surprise shot where she's bitching at him. He pulls a huge gun out and just shoots her in the head, and everyone goes, "Great shot!" And you're looking like, "What the hell just happened?" And realize he's just fantasizing about the whole thing. Fantastic, man. I love that movie.
That was really fun to do. It was great fun to do.
Hey, let's go to the phones. A lot of people want to get in on the interview with George Romero. It's Kent, the movie guy. Kent?
Hey, Ken.
Hold on, Mr. Romero.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. We got to get some headphones on.
Okay, I got it.
Sorry about that. I should have warned you.
You're on the air.
Kent, go ahead.
Nope, not hearing it. Sorry.
I went and saw
I got it.
Land of the Dead in Japan with my dad, totally coincidentally, and my dad's never seen a horror movie in his entire life. And he got so scared, he didn't know how to deal with it at the end, so he just slugged me. We're walking out of this movie theater, and the biggest compliment you can get in Japan, I hear, is just complete silence. Like, that's how they respect the movie over there.
Oh, wow.
And they were all walking out, they're all talking about it and everything.
Oh, so they weren't being
all
silent.
the girls are scared. And then all of a sudden my dad, this 6'4" white guy, slugs me, and we're just getting stared at by maybe 50 to 70 Japanese people.
Wow.
Can I tell you what a great point George just made? The guy goes, the biggest compliment you can give a movie is to not talk about it. And then he goes, and somebody in Japan is walking and chit-chatting about it.
It's like, gee, thanks.
I mean, like here, if a movie's really good, they'll give applause at the end of the movie. There, it's just like everyone gets up. And,
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
Hey, George, are you...
So how bad was it? Well, how bad did he hit? How tough was it, man?
I didn't want to miss the moment. Are
Blackened his
you
eye.
casting for new zombies?
Not right now.
Oh,
but,
we got the perfect guy. He just walked in with our food. You got to meet Club Soda Kenny. Could be the star of.
He's got no personality. He's got hair like a zombie. It's all dry.
Here,
Wait, he
grab
just
Vinny's
smiled.
mic.
He just smiled. That doesn't.
No,
that
but
doesn't.
this is our.
No
Yes.
smiling.
Watch this.
I apologize, sir. I didn't mean to.
And he's dumb as a zombie.
Yes.
That's correct.
We can have him brighten up a little bit and chipper up to play the zombie if you need him to.
A little more lively, maybe.
Yeah.
Where do the majority of the zombies come from in the movies? The cast, are they just
Extras. Yeah.
and friends? You ever get friends to
Well,
go, "Hey, I want to be a zombie"?
Yes, and we've been able to do that. The last two films we shot in Canada, and the unions are really rigid up there.
Zombie union?
When I was, zombie union. The dead have rights. And that's so you can only use friends on days when you have hired a certain amount of union extras. So you know it's a little tougher to do that. When I was working in Pittsburgh, I made all my 8 films except for until the last 3 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they were outside the circle of, I think there's a 300-mile limit on the New York Extras Union.
Oh, really?
So we were able to do whatever we wanted to do, but over up in Canada. It's pretty rigid.
And you've had
But
to.
they come from, I mean, and I'm telling you, man, sometimes professionals are worse. I mean, I'd much rather have buddies or, the neighbors, literally the neighbors.
I would guess people that are familiar with your work probably know how to imitate what you want better than somebody you're trying to actually direct. I think we've all kind of done that whole thing. There was a funny scene in Shaun of the Dead, that spoofy kind of scene where they had to mix in with the zombies, so they all trying to act like zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of funny when you think of getting an actor in there and having to tell him, all right, do this, or no, you're not getting it right. You're not zombie enough.
I can't make a physical move. I mean, if I'm talking to a bunch of extras, if I even just do this, then all of a sudden you get everybody doing that.
He does. It looks like Thriller.
Choreographed. But so people, I find that it's best to leave people up to, let them do what their interpretation.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get great stuff. I mean, sometimes you get these really exaggerated, things you have to cut around or cut out.
Yeah.
But you very often get some really creative stuff.
Some of the creepiest ones are that emotionless, dropped face where it's just, it's just some mindless thing coming after you.
Yeah.
And those are the creepiest ones, drooling maybe.
I want a zombie that snaps his fingers. That's what you need. One zombie that just snaps a little.
Fingers would break.
They just snap off.
Snap.
Let's say hi to Colin in Florida. Colin.
Hi, Mr. Romero.
Hi, Colin.
It's an honor to speak to you.
Thank you.
The staff already brought up the Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
And you actually wrote a script for it.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that?
Well, I got fired. It's the first time I ever got fired. It was we were working with it was a German company. We were working with the executives in L.A. and with Capcom, with the game company, and we thought we had really written a pretty good script. But the management of the production company just didn't want to go that way. So I didn't really get fired. I got paid for the work and everything. But they decided that they wanted to just go a different direction, which had nothing to do with the game.
It's got to be hard to do.
Your script is online and is far superior to the direct that they put on there, and just a epitome of Hollywood not knowing what people want.
Yeah, well, in this case, it wasn't Hollywood. The Hollywood office of Constantine really liked it. It was the German headquarters that didn't like it.
So, thank you, sir.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
It's weird. It's got to be hard writing a script like that too, because so much of the horror or the vibe of it is in the way it's shot and is in the, like you said, the face, the drop jaw, these different things. It's kind of hard to put in a script. So people will just look at the script and go, "Well, what is this going to do?"
Yeah, it doesn't scare me.
Right.
Yeah.
No music. I gotta send some musicians over with the script.
Read this one.
Man opens the door, lady's standing there. Fix this.
It's not scary. And then when you look at it, of course, frightening.
All right, let's go to Jody in New York. Jody?
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering why zombies can't walk upstairs.
They can.
Sure they
I
can.
don't think they walk upstairs.
Well, they have in my films.
Yeah.
The end
They
of
have?
Dawn, they climb a ladder. I mean, they get up to the roof, actually, in Dawn.
Thank God
So,
you
my God.
called.
Yeah.
Because she would have run upstairs if there were zombies and they'd have gotten her.
Yeah.
She'd have been surprised.
A better question is, why don't they take elevators?
They have a hard time with escalators. They also do take an elevator in Dawn of the Dead.
They take elevators, and they also just miss getting into elevators, which is very good.
One zombie pushes the button, and the other zombie's like, "I already pushed that. Why do you have to re-push it?"
Even as zombies, they're annoyed.
Let's say hi
when
to Sean
people do that
in Georgia. Sean.
Hey, Mr. Romero.
Hi.
Have you read any of the zombie literature, like World War Z and anything like that? And what do you think about those?
It's I don't know. What can I say? I mean, I like Max. He's a great guy, Max Brooks, and I like the Survival Guide, and I like World War Z. But I don't know. It's not my stuff. It's my stuff is I have this peculiar niche, and my stuff is all really about what's happening in the world, and it's not sort of zombies for the sake of zombies, and so. Max takes it very seriously, as if it were a real plague, and that's the way he approaches it. And great. That's
Can I paraphrase? George thinks it's shit.
Yeah. He's just being a little too nice
He's
for
a
the
nice
show.
guy.
No, I
Thinks it's crap all.
George, do you watch the newer horror films, and what do you think of them? Like Hostel or Saw? Or
I've seen enough of them to sort of stay away from the sequels. But it's just not. Again, man,
your
it's
thing?
not my thing. I'm a much more of a traditionalist. I mean, I'm much more of. I'd rather do Creepshow. I'd rather do something a little more operatic or gothic. And it's just what it's all about. What you grew up on. You know?
Did that guy really have roaches on his face?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. We had to. I mean, the only way to get him to stay there, they had to give him CO2 or something, to slow him down, because otherwise, they would dump out a big Rubbermaid trash can full of roaches on that set, and within 20 seconds, you couldn't see one. I mean,
wow, they just disappear.
But take the phone apart, and there's this phone-shaped thing, which is like all roach. And it was dreadful. It's the worst time that me and my crew ever had on a set. It was just hideous because they were everywhere. They'd get in your briefcase. They'd get you were pulling them out with your script.
That's awful.
It was dreadful.
Where'd they get them from?
They had to go to Trinidad.
Chinese restaurant.
Trinidad.
Left an egg roll on the table at the Stretch Factory.
Vinny gets
that
it.
was unnecessary.
Why did you go to Trinidad for cockroaches?
If you buy cockroaches from a lab, we needed 500,000 roaches, so they charge 50 cents a piece. That's
a little
Really?
into the budget.
Yeah, cheaper to send guys to Trinidad, and they literally brought back barrels of these things, and they had their own trailer. It had to be climatized. It was.
So wait, they would just ship a barrel of live roaches.
Yeah.
What do they put food-wise in there for them? How do they eat?
I don't know that. I don't know. These guys,
A piece of cheese or
Anything. You can throw anything. Eat anything.
I have to shit. Well, there's the barrel.
They eat each other. I don't know. I don't know what they did that way. I don't know.
There's a Creepshow entry on the IMDb listed for release this year. Now, I mean, I was wondering if is that a remake or a sequel?
Yeah.
And do you have anything to do with that at all?
No, it's a remake, and I had nothing to do with it. Neither did Steve.
Oh, Stephen King.
Stephen King.
Do you have any plans with Stephen King for any upcoming?
We're always talking about a project. I mean, we've been on again, off again on several things. Tom Gordon, Buick 8, and somehow the stuff just either never happens. It's pretty hard to figure why. But no, we're not working on anything right now. But Steve's, we're still in touch. Steve does a newscaster voice in my new film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a bunch of guys came out to do that. Quentin Tarantino and Wes Craven.
Oh yeah, anybody involved in horror
Quentin's
has
got to be a huge
idolize
fan,
him.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun and it was just great that they came out to do it. It was terrific.
You know what else I like about your work is that putting humor in these horrible situations. There's a great gruesome scene where they're all on top of the mall shooting into the crowd, and they're holding up the names of celebrities that the zombies look like, which was just. I was in the movie theater with my girlfriend, and we were laughing hysterical, and no one else was laughing.
Yeah.
I was really laughing hard. Jay Leno was one of them. I guess Jay Leno. And you look, and it's a zombie that looks like Jay Leno, and the guy just blows his head off. And it's a gruesome scene, but hysterically funny.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that's been a trend in your work.
Yeah, well, that was actually in Zach's film. That was in the remake. Yeah. But I can't resist it. I mean, I had a pie fight in Dawn of the Dead, man. I just couldn't resist it. You're out. You find yourself out in the middle of nowhere shooting one of these things, and half of your friends have goop all over their face.
Yeah, you gotta have some
fun. Can't help but chuckle, and so. I can't resist jokes. There's a few of them in the new film too. There's one that I thought was just going to be way too slapstick, but I won't tell people what it is. But it's turned out to be one of the favorite scenes in it. So I guess there's room for humor.
The movie comes out, by the way. It's called Diary of the Dead, and it's in theaters Friday, February 15th. Which is that this Friday? The Friday after this Friday.
A week from Friday. A week from Friday.
A week from Friday it comes out. And I want to. You want to go to
just because you mentioned that, Jimmy. Brett from Long Island. He's actually seen Diary of the Dead at Tribeca. Don't give any of the movie away, Brett. But what do you have to say?
I saw it 2 weeks ago, and I it was one of the most refreshing pieces of work that George has done in a long time.
Wow, man, thank you. Thanks.
You really loved it, huh?
Well, it was great at being free to be able to do exactly what we wanted to do, and so I don't know, maybe that's why. It's just purely one from the heart. It's a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun for me to do, and it's very gratifying that people are digging it, because it's not a big movie in any way. It's very intimate. It's more like Night of the Living Dead that way. It's a small cast of characters in limited situations. It's not Thunderdome, like Land of the Dead was getting a little too Thunderdome for me, but. This film seems to be working. So,
what do you think of the CGI and stuff like that? Is that something, obviously, over the years, that computer animation, stuff like that in a film, is that really jumped into your movies, or are you still a little bit more traditional?
I would prefer to be able to do everything mechanically and on the set. I'm a purist that way. I mean, I like the old King Kong, even though the thing looks like a... but there are just some things you just can't do. Like we had to melt a guy's head down with acid, and then most actors don't let you do that.
Although they should.
We could get Rich Voss to do that.
Exactly. Just drink the acid and be fine.
All right. As long as I'm a star.
But in this film, too, we had to work very, very quickly. I mean, we only had 20 days to shoot this film.
Wow.
So, and it's all subjective camera. And sometimes, if you do it with a squib, you do a real explosive on the head. If you don't get the shot, the wall is stained. You got to repaint the wall, re-rig the squib, and it sucks off time. So it's much easier to have the actor point the gun, the zombie falls, and you paint in the gun flash and you paint in the blood. It's just being able to do that is just makes the production time, the on the set time, much more efficient.
Less distracting, too, I think. When you're watching a movie and you're just believing it because it looks so real, there's no part of you that's suspending, like, that I kind of see the way they did that.
Yeah.
You want to just feel like you're watching it really happening, and I think it's less distracting when it works like that.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, these are all sort of simple effects. I mean, it's not like when you see a bunch of dinosaurs running around, that they weren't able to actually shoot that. So, it tips it off that it's CG. And I have a young son, 17-year-old son, who went to see iRobot, and he said, it's all computers.
Yeah.
So I think there is a bit of disappointment when that's all it is. It's just an exercise.
Right. Let's take one more phone call. It's Ray in Cleveland. Ray.
Hi, Mr. Romero. I'm a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
I actually have watched every Dead movie you've made.
I'm sorry about that.
I'm also from Pittsburgh originally.
Hey. All right.
And I've been to Monroeville. I've seen the house. I've been to the cemetery.
Oh my
I've done
God!
It all.
Holy cow!
In fact, all when I'm playing hockey for tournaments and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Wow! On that ice rink, on the ice rink in the mall.
No, they actually removed that last time I heard.
Yeah, they did, but I didn't know when you were there.
No, I played in Bethel Park, all them places, but I've made the point to go to Monroeville every time. But you are my idol. And I love you for everything you've done to movies, especially horror films. You're amazing.
Well, thank you very much.
Any question?
No, but I think I'm doing a couple of more of these shows later. Would you call up, please?
I have one question, actually.
Okay.
I saw a documentary where you said the movie score for the original Night of the Living Dead was won in the chess game.
No, the mix, the audio mix. We had to pay for the movie score, but we paid for needle downs. In those days, they called them needle downs, and but we won the mix, the audio mix, in a chess game. One of my
that's what I heard.
Jesus, really?
This is real guerrilla stuff.
I guess.
This guy, the guy that owned the lab, set up. He was willing to play a chess game for the mix, and we won it.
Wow.
Russ Streiner, one of the producers, won it.
Oh, very cool. Actually, Clutch in Baltimore has something. Clutch?
Hey, Mr. Romero. Great talking with you.
Hey,
I just wanted to let you know, when I saw that movie as a kid, I truly wanted to get lost in a mall while zombies attack because I wanted to play.
I know.
It was great.
Well, it was a fantasy for us being there. And in those days, man, nobody wore. I mean, J.C. Penney said, "Sure, shoot," and they didn't make us cover. When they did the remake, nowadays you could never get away with that. When they did the remake of Dawn, they had to use fictitious names on all the stores. And
really?
Yeah. So I mean, I think we just sort of squeaked in under the wire before lawyers and insurance companies insisted that these places stop doing stuff like that.
It's amazing, like a plane crash. Every plane crash is like Fred's airline. It's never like Continental or
right.
Atlantic Star Airlines. It doesn't
They don't
exist.
they don't want anything connected to them like that.
Stupid lawyers.
Zombies might come into JCPenney's.
Yeah,
I've seen that. I swear.
Danny, one final question before we get George out of here.
Oh, sure.
He's a very busy man.
Well, there's been a lot of remakes lately. The latest one in the horror genre, I think, has probably been Halloween, and it was all right. It did very well, but now there's plans to do a lot of other remakes, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, I think is slated for a remake. And do you think that there's really a need to remake these movies, or is it, on the other end of that, is it just reintroducing these films to a whole new generation of kids?
Well, of course, that's the way that's the rationalization. That's how they justify doing it. But the kids have seen them; they're on video, and so I don't buy that argument. I think it's just the safety of a proven title, and Hollywood's going to go that way rather than take a chance. They read scripts; they don't know is this any good or not.
Yeah, just knowing that they could spend a minimal amount of money and get a huge return on it justifies the cost.
And it has the automatic recognition of title recognition.
It really is amazing how the writing just sucks so badly in a lot of these. They just keep remaking. King Kong, I think I was happy they remade simply for graphics, and they could do so much more now. But movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, they don't need to remake that. It was horrifying the way it was.
Absolutely.
But it's just some dumb young shit, some 30-year-old who's in a position he doesn't belong in, who's not a good enough writer to come up with something creative, and he can't make the decision to go, all right, well, this is good, let's take a chance. Is just going to steal something, and I think you're very diplomatic in saying that.
No. Especially the first 3 Elm Streets. The third one, I mean, those were really terrific, great ideas. They don't need to be remade. You can't. Nobody, and the chances of them improving or coming up with better ideas is pretty slim.
Not Robert Englund, obviously. They use a different Freddy.
I don't think it's been cast.
I don't know.
Okay.
I also got to ask you one more thing about the end of the original Night of the Living Dead. Case of mistaken identity, or intentionally shooting him at the end. I mean.
No, they weren't. You mean, just again, that's talked about as a racial issue. And when we wrote the script, in my mind, when I wrote that scene, the guy in my mind was a white guy. So it wasn't. People have talked about this. They say, well, they see a black guy and they shoot him.
Yeah.
That wasn't intended at all. They see a shadow in the window, they think it's a zombie, and they shoot him. So in my mind, it was always just mistaken identity.
For a smart guy, he was pretty stupid, just kind of poking his head up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's not.
He had a hard night.
He makes a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
He spends the whole movie arguing, don't go into the basement, and that's where he goes, and that's what saves him.
Yeah,
and then,
true.
So he makes a lot of mistakes.
Well, we should let George.
Yes, we have.
We got a lot of interviews today, huh?
The final plug is Diary of the Dead. It's in theaters Friday, a week from this Friday, February 15th, and it was written, directed, and co-produced by George Romero, which is nice that you had so much control over it.
Oh, it was terrific, yeah.
And we're so happy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
No. I was just going to say thank you, guys. It's really been fun.
Oh, awesome.
Nice way to
believe
start
me,
the
it's
day.
just amazing to have you in here. When we heard you were coming in, we were all just giddy.
Like a bunch of
if I
dumb
could use the word
kids.
giddy. Yeah.
Well, who hasn't seen your film and can't sit through it, but the rest of us we're obviously very excited.
We walked over here. He was already here, and then Jimmy sat down with him and immediately started bonding about Hollywood and stuff.
Well, you know what it is? It's because when I was in Pittsburgh recently shooting the Kevin Smith film.
Oh, yes, Jimmy, yes.
We were in Monroeville, and they were saying this is where George shot so much of his stuff. And so I figured that, men of our similar ilk
yes, of course.
just talk about show business. I sound like Fredo when I talk about it. Gotta go learn casino business.
And don't forget Vinnie Brandt, of course.
Yeah, very quiet doing
he
this
would
'cause I didn't see
appear
the
at the
movie.
Stress Factory in front of what I believe must be a Japanese audience.
Very good.
The silence
I
thing.
took a long second to get that.
Go on. No, I mean it. Go. It's an old classic vaudeville joke.
But you are a legend, and we were really psyched. And I forgot what a big fan you are, Danny. Any final words? I think we should let Danny, because Danny is the biggest fan. We should let you close out the interview with something, a statement maybe. You don't have to.
Yeah, how about a statement?
Something.
Throw the paper away. Speak from the heart.
That's right.
All right,
I
here's
like your
Dan.
movies.
That's it.
Brilliantly done.
movies.
All right, Dan. No
I'm
need to
George
get.
Romero, and I approve of this.
Great.
Good.
Wow, no need to get
George,
overly emotional.
Thank you
and
so
maudlin.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Great fun. Really, really fun.
Take a
Thanks.
break so we can
Thanks a
take
lot.
pictures, for God's sake.
Don't go yet.
No, not going.
I want to try the glasses on. The famous glasses myself.